So continuing in Psalm 9 with verse 17, it says, "The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God." This is not a definition of wickedness that you find in the world, right? When we think of wickedness from a human standpoint, we just think of hurting other people from what we can see. But what we don't realize is that the most wicked thing you can do, and what all wickedness comes from, is forgetting God. That's what Satan did to us. He told us to forget God. He's trying to keep things from you. And there's so many people that are very kind, and I like to hang out with them. They're very nice people, but they're wicked because they think that we're okay without God. They forget God for themselves. They're trying to help other people forget God. And that's wrong, isn't it? That's so wrong. And then it says this, it says in verse 18, "For the needy shall not always be forgotten. The expectation of the poor shall not perish forever." And it says for, like it's connected, that wickedness, forgetting God, is what leads to all that. And we know this, we see this in Genesis chapter 3, when sin enters the world, when Satan convinces Eve to forget God, forget his command, do things your own way. And then Adam does the same thing. Abundance is turned into poverty, right? They have to work very hard for what they get. And that's what we see nowadays. People don't realize that the answer to all of humanity's problems is God. Seeking God, doing things his way. And I know there's so many people that carry around the label. They give themselves the label of Christian, and they're horrible people, right? They're forgetting God, but they're backstabbing in the way that they do it, right? Because they appear to be Christian, they carry the label Christian, but they're not really serving Christ. So don't reject Christ for the people that pervert his name. And that was who Jesus had problems with when he was here, was the religious leaders. But we need to understand that the answer to all the world's problems is Jesus. Jesus says this, he says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Do you realize by living a life and by communicating to the people around you that you don't need God, you're keeping them from rest? You're keeping them from knowing the Creator that can give them peace and joy. Jesus also said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me." Do you know how wicked it is for you to be communicating to the world that there's other ways to the Father except through Jesus? You're keeping them from the Father. That is so wicked. If my daughter needed something and you kept her from the thing, like say she needed a certain medication and you convinced her that she didn't need it and she suffered horribly and she died because of it, that would be on you, wouldn't it? And that's what we're doing. Well, not me, but that's what so many people are doing in this world, is they're keeping people from the answer. And the answer is Jesus, all right? And that's according to Jesus, right? You're resisting Jesus. You're keeping people from him. You're keeping them from rest. You're keeping them from life. You're keeping them from heaven, from the new heaven and the new earth. And that's horrible. And God said he's not going to let that stay. The wicked shall be turned into hell, the people who forget God, because the needy will not always be forgotten. Can you imagine the abundance we're going to have in the new heaven and the new earth? Because nobody will be allowed there who undermines God and is trying to keep other people from him. It will be a place of pure abundance because everyone will just completely trust God. And then it says this in verse 19. This is the psalmist David saying, "Arise, O Lord, do not let man prevail. Let the nations be judged in your sight." They need to be judged for this, for trying to keep people from him. Keep people from what they need. Put them in fear, O Lord. And man, that's what I prayed before I made this video. There's so many of you that you just have no fear for God, and you don't realize how you're hurting humanity. You're hurting the people that you say you love and care about by keeping them from God. I hope you have some certain fear of the Lord. The last part of 20, that the nations may know themselves to be but men. Selah, which I believe means pause and think of that. So, man, you just realize you're man. You're human. You have a body that's made up of systems, and you're so weak and fragile, and yet so many people act like they're invincible, and they speak like they're invincible, and they've rejected the one who made them and sustains them. Don't be that person. Realize how fragile you are, that you need God. And certainly don't be the kind of person that tries to keep other people from Jesus, because Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the solution to all of our problems.